At the time when Warhol was developing his take on pop art, there were a number of other artists in New York City who were independently exploring elements of American popular culture. Many of these artists were not aware of each other's work until a gallery owner named Leo Castelli brought them together to form the first official pop art exhibition. James Rosenquist was one of these artists. Like Warhol, Rosenquist came from a commercial arts background. While Warhol sat at a desk illustrating, Rosenquist worked on scaffolding, painting billboards. Before large commercial printers were available, it used to be the job of billboard painters to take images from advertising and blow them up to billboard scale. When Rosenquist transitioned to the fine arts, he brought these skills with him. His paintings are mostly mural-sized canvases copied directly from photographs. Like Warhol, Rosenquist was interested in depicting celebrity culture and mass-production foods. He also painted images of new model cars, fighter jets, and anything else that seemed to represent the fast consumer lifestyle of the 1960s. By stitching all of these images together, his paintings have the aesthetic of blown-up collages made from magazines. Roy Lichtenstein was another pop artist who was included in Leo Castelli's exhibition. Lichtenstein's early work revolved around the reproduction of images from pulpy romance and war comic books. Lichtenstein did a stint in the army during World War II, and he would have been exposed to such comics that were sent to the troops. To save on ink, these comics were printed with dots that optically mix with the white of the paper. In Lichtenstein's enlarged images, he painted the dots of color to retain this printed aesthetic. Lichtenstein's subjects range from desperate to ridiculous. It is important to understand that Lichtenstein, like Warhol and Rosenquist, was not inventing the imagery that he painted. He would merely copy these images almost exactly from their found sources. Naturally, this generated many questions concerning originality and ownership. In the end, though, it all boils down to artistic intention. One is intended for the newsstand, while the other is intended for the fine art gallery. The Swedish-born artist Claes Oldenburg took an early fascination in the relationship of art and capitalism. In a collaboration with the Green Gallery, Oldenburg exhibited a piece called The Store. He filled this installation with crude plaster and enamel paint replicas of various consumable goods from food to clothing. All of these nigh utilitarian objects in his store were naturally for sale. Oldenburg's later work became interested in creating blown-up versions of everyday banal objects. These objects force us to look at familiar things in a different light, and possibly even reevaluate the extent of our consumption. With the exception of the surviving members of the original group, contemporary artists do not generally refer to themselves as being pop artists, although the legacy of pop art is still very much alive today. We continue to live in a culture that worships celebrities and is fueled by consumerism. Art is also still a very viable commodity. In 2006, this painting by Jackson Pollock, entitled Number 5, sold at auction for a purported $140 million. One contemporary artist who effortlessly blends the legacy of pop art with market expertise is Jeff Koons. Like many of his predecessors, Koons got his start in the business sector. By business, I mean that he started his career as a successful Wall Street commodities broker. When Koons transitioned to the fine art in the late 1970s, his business sense followed completely intact. He set up a Warhol-like factory in Soho where he employs a staff of about 30 artists, each assigned to a different aspect of producing his work. Unlike Warhol, who did not make it clear when and where he was involved in the production of his own work, Koons practically makes an open claim of non-participation beyond the inception of his ideas. Everything beyond the concept of Koons' work is executed by somebody else in his staff. The themes of Koons's work range from kitschy to super kitschy. He is well known for producing everything from porcelain puppy dogs to giant metal replications of balloon animals. This giant porcelain sculpture, entitled Michael Jackson and Bubbles, is the culmination of Koons's series called Banality from the 1980s. Despite its inherent silliness, this piece sold in 1992 at the Sotheby's auction block for over $5.5 million. To continue with Koons's inherent fascination with puppies, this puppy is a giant steel wireframe topiary. An elaborate internal irrigation system and a team of gardeners are required to keep the flowers blooming. The terrain of our contemporary art world is one that embraces pluralism and diversity by breaking down the division between high and low culture. We live in a globalized era where there is no longer one cultural center. Because of this, specific artistic movements have become few and far between. As an endnote for this lecture, Jeff Koons's puppy currently resides in front of none other than Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain. Koons's pop art-inspired topiary seems a far cry from Gehry's seemingly abstract expressionist-inspired building. Together, though, they attest to the incredible diversity of the contemporary art world and its divergent histories.